Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. Um, it is January the 13th, 2020 year. Welcome. Today, I have the honor and privilege of having our normal panel leaders here. Eileen, the incredible Eileen, that's going to keep us streamlined. Hi, Eileen. April, she's a channel and a medium, a psychic. Welcome, April. And we have Caesar as well. Caesar is a medium himself, so welcome, Caesar. Welcome. Did you want to talk about what happened to you? You just said something right before this Facebook Live started, Caesar. And what was the spiritual lesson behind it?
Well, I couldn't really find the lesson in it, but I thought it was more of a practice for me to practice acceptance. I've got a lot of people around me in the workforce. I run my business, and when the guys came over for work the other day, my van was missing, and with all my tools, my laptop, I mean, pretty much everything was in there. And I tried not to I don't know, I was in shock for the first maybe 15, 20 minutes. And then we just went about our day. We got in another vehicle and went to work. And, the guys kept asking me, how are you not mad, or depressed? You're just not missing a beat. Well, what am I supposed to do? This has been my practice for some time now. And thank God, because that would have been a time where I would have flipped out and, been depressed or really angry and hated the world. And, it's a material thing along with material things that was in the vehicle, including all my IDs, my bank cards. And it really didn't, like I said, the initial shock was, it was heavy. But I did try to pull the lesson out of it. And I honestly couldn't think of one. Something I did wrong or could have done better, could have done right. I had my alarm set. They were definitely professionals. And I just came up with the conclusion that it's just something that I have to practice, which is acceptance. And we didn't miss a beat at work. There was a little time I had to spend with the police department and the detectives and all. But other than that, it's life goes on. It's still as beautiful as ever. And I came home and I cried that evening because I said, what if I actually said a prayer and I included the people that stole my van in the prayer to keep them safe. Because it's not, they're hurting too, obviously. There's drugs involved, there's something, to make an individual do something like that and act in that way is obviously, unconscious behavior. But at the end of the day, I feel great. And I was so overwhelmed with gratitude that evening because I was just thinking, what did I align with? And maybe it was something that was keeping me. Perhaps I would have gotten my vehicle. I don't usually do the what ifs, but I was coming to some conclusions just mentally. And one of the things that crossed my mind was maybe had I left in the vehicle that night or in the morning, maybe I would have gotten an accident or something bad would have happened in the vehicle. So I don't know, but I'm guessing that may have been the case. And I was just overwhelmed with gratitude that, nobody got hurt. It wasn't a robbery style deal and, kids in the car, nothing like that. So it's just material stuff at the end of the day. And I remain grateful. And I really, honestly, I will credit that to the power of presence, 100%, reading Tolle's Power of Now. And then practicing that, it's one thing to read the book and get it. But if you don't maintain your practice, it slips away easy. And I have been down that road before where I was good for 3 years. I got involved in a relationship for about 4 years. And that went sour. The gal I was with started drinking. It took me about 6 months to catch on that she was drinking, over a fifth a day of vodka. And she was a police officer and an FBI agent, and things went south. And I kind of went back to sleep. I knew in the beginning when things started going bad, I can change it if I could, change the situation. I don't have control over anybody. I could leave the situation, which I didn't do, or I could just fully accept it as it was. And yeah, I made some bad choices in sticking around, and I was really just trying to reach out to her and not leave her during a terrible time in her life, even though I was taken on a lot of the consequences from her actions, I really wanted to help her. And, the relationship was set aside for me. It wasn't a selfish thing. It was more, I stuck around knowing I was going to get basically punished at the expense of trying to get her help in her addiction. And so my point is that I did go back to sleep somewhat during that time. And, because it's like the further you get out on the ice, the thinner it gets. Well, the brittler it becomes, and you're subject to fall through it sometimes. And when you think you got it, um, you really don't. And to practice whatever it is that you're trying to master and be good at is vitally important. And not just when it's convenient, just Sunday, don't get it for me. I've turned every little irritation throughout the days over the years into opportunities to practice acceptance. So when something like this does happen, it just comes second nature, instantly to accept it, surrender to the situation, so to speak. And again, there was initial shock of 15 minutes, but life goes on and it's still beautiful as ever. And I'm grateful, as grateful today as I was 3 days ago when I woke up to no van. So, and I credit that to the power of presence and practicing what we speak on week in and week out.
Thank you, Caesar.
Thank you.
You want to give a synopsis of, because Kelly just joined and he may not have heard what we are discussing. The topic of discussion, Kelly, is Caesar's experience of 2 days ago.
Yes. Yep. You want me to brief him?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yeah, Kelly, my van was stolen. My work vehicle was stolen a couple days ago. I woke up and the van was gone with all my tools. My laptop was in it like a goofball. All of my tools for my business, my IDs, my bank cards, pretty much everything that was of value to me was in that van. And the short version for Kelly is that I was saying there was an initial period of about 15 minutes that I was in shock, while I was making the police report. And immediately thereafter, the detective walked out the door. I just carried on with my day. Me and my sister have been practicing. We started reading the Course in Miracles together every morning. And we sat down at the table like we do every other morning. And we got to our lesson for the Course in Miracles and continued on the day. But I didn't miss a beat pretty much for the most part. Tried to set a good example for those around me, people I work with and the people around me. And, and it was cool for them to validate that, wow, it really does work. Everything that I preach to these guys all day long about, not getting shook over anything that happens and wait till something, big happens to you. Then we'll see. And well, I mean, I wouldn't say getting your van stolen with your tools in it is a very big thing. There was a time that I would have said it was devastating, but I was just saying that it's a testament to the power of now and, the power of presence. And this practice that we join in every Wednesday evening is a credit to maintaining my peace during these times. And that's pretty much it. Up to speed for you, Kelly.
Thank you, Caesar.
Yes, ma'am.
April, do you see a lesson?
Well, I think he nailed the lesson. And I think that
What is the soul contract?
what is the soul? Well, there could be one. You mentioned that one time before when you told the story about your brother and he had lost some money or somebody had taken some money and you said, no, perhaps in another lifetime you took that money. So now we're paying that back, that cycle of karma. Perhaps. There's so many different factors and so many ways you could go. So we could go the spiritual route. We could go as far as practicing acceptance, which I think, like Kelly mentioned last time, life's a journey and the learning never stops and the practicing never stops. The teaching never stops. And just when you think you got a lesson, they're going to give it to you on another level. So you're going to relearn it and redo it until, in essence, you perfect it. And in this human form, not very many of us do perfect it because we're human. So we could do the karma, we could do the spiritual. There's also the human side that, as Caesar was saying, that these people are hurting. Times are hard right now. I have heard of more car thefts lately than I've heard in years. So that dynamic is there. I think there's many dynamics, but the ultimate answer is it is what it is. It is stolen. What are you going to do? If I could be bewitched and snap my fingers, that was my ultimate passion when I was a child. I so wanted to do that, but we can't. There's some that try to tell us we can, that we can just magically manifest. Well, in you can't. In this example, the magic is in acceptance. That's where the magic's at. And then trying to find what I've said before is the gifts in the bad. What are the gifts in the bad? There's a lot of bad here, but he found some gifts. So that's where I think the lesson's at.
Thank you, April. Beautiful topic, Caesar. Um, what I heard April say is you get another level of spiritual lesson, right? It's like Eileen and I have had this discussion, right? We think that we got it. We think we know it, right? We got to the presence practice, and boom, another huge lesson comes and whams us, right? So that what April was saying, another level of the lesson comes. I think I actually your most favorite teacher, Sadhguru, says that we don't download like the complete amount of karma that we need, right? It's just given in certain portions to us. So maybe you had exhausted it and the next download is coming right now and you rose to it. So beautiful. I'm humbled. I'm deeply humbled.
Yeah, I get to try to manifest the van pulling back up in my driveway too. That's going to be the fun part of this. I keep telling the guys I'm gonna get the van back, and they're like, I don't know. And I'm thinking, it's an 8-year-old van, so it's not like there's a real big demand, for a chop shop, parts off it or anything like that. And we're gonna see what happens. But I've already set my rocket of desire out there. I know it's out there in my vortex once again, and we're gonna see what happens here. But I got a strong feeling I'm gonna get that van back. And that's all I'm going to say about it. And I'm going to get out of my own way, and it will be.
Or as Abraham Hicks says, the loss of the van gives you an opportunity to buy another work vehicle.
For sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you're going to bless the person, whoever the salesperson that you buy the next vehicle from, because insurance probably covers most of your loss.
No, actually, they covered none of it. I had regular PLPD on that particular vehicle with my tools in it. And so it is what it is. Things that come around. I'm excited. But, I did list the van up because I was trying to think, where did I align with this whole, situation? And I've been contemplating getting another vehicle anyways. I actually bought a Ford, and I'm kind of more lenient. I would prefer a Chevy or a Dodge van, particularly. And I was just going back and forth with the vehicle for about a couple of weeks. And about a week before this happened, so about a week ago, I actually listed the van for sale. And I messed up because I took pictures of the back of the van and I neglected to take all my tools out of it first. So I kind of advertised the money in the back of the van, so to speak, I feel like. And I think that invited it. And I did give my address to a few people, through Marketplace to come look at it. A couple of them did, a couple of them never did. It may have been one of them situations. I'm not trying to play Columbo here and figure out why, but I did try to figure out where I aligned with that. And that might've been it, because I had the desire to purchase a different vehicle. And I was tossing and turning about that. So that may be the only thing that really makes any sense to me as far as where and what I align with that happening to, if that makes sense.
So I'll go back to the book, The Nature of Personal Reality. In Nature of Personal Reality, Seth says, if we had a robbery, right, then we were somehow holding the limiting belief that there's something valuable here, right? And constantly checking on like you were constantly checking on your toolbox, or you were constantly checking your vehicle, right? So somehow there was a belief, and then the aggressor also believes in taking, like, so we are holding the limiting belief, oh, there are evil people out there, that people take advantage of us, right? People are going to people harm us, and that corresponding belief is held by the aggressor, but the aggressor, the belief that they hold is that they can do the opposite, that I'm going to be the evil one that will take from the other, right? And somehow in the probability chart, you all matched the person that took the vehicle. So it is what it is, inevitability of the present moment. Thank you, Caesar. Eileen, did you want to comment on?
Sure. Um,
Thank
I
you.
like that he mentioned acceptance. And I was laughing because before Caesar got here, we were talking about me needing to accept my present moment that I'm having some trouble with over here. And so then Caesar got on and said the same thing. And that's why I started laughing right before, because I was like, oh, look, here we are. I'm hearing it again. But I actually was just going to add that that idea of, you know, the lesson coming back around, but then you just said it. And it was almost like the sharpening of a pencil. I was thinking, it's like, yes, you've got it, you know it, but it's just like you just needed a little bit of practice. So that was it.
Thank you, Eileen. Kelly, welcome, our Qigong teacher. Welcome.
Hi,
You
everyone.
want to you want to speak about
Acceptance.
the loss of the van 2 days
Lost
back?
van.
It's pretty fresh.
Yeah, that's a big wow. That's I mean, like, wow, man. Way to you know, give yourself that lesson. You know, it's sort of one of those experiences where, I mean, again, not my situation, not my personal experience, but as an observer, that's, you know, yeah, when you have that much of your life wrapped up in one space that then is, you know, removed or you know, taken, when you have that kind of security removed from your life, your journey, and the universe sort of, you know, gives you that monkey wrench, it's always, you know, those moments in my experience are always, yeah, it's about the discipline, it's about the practice. So I you know, I caught the tail end of what you're saying, about how, you know, it's one thing to read a book, it's a whole other thing to apply and to be present in those kind of moments and to not let yourself get hijacked by your fear, your anger, and all that. So, you know, wow, man, that's some heavy, you know, intense learning curve right there.
Thank you, Kelly. I think we have a question from Crystal. My daughter, 15, and I are very close for the most part, but when she needs correction or discipline, we really bump heads. She's very high strung and vocal, and it can get very ugly. I used to be able to keep myself calm, but lately it's such a struggle. Once I'm able to bring myself back down, I see clearer, but in the moment, her words and actions take me out of character. Advice, please. April, you had two young, that age daughters, like 12 or teenagers, so, or close to. So I'll let you
Yeah.
start. Thank you.
My older girls now, especially one of my daughters now has a teenager, a 15-year-old, and we have multiple conversations about, oh my God, can't believe what she's doing, what she's saying. And I just kind of laugh and look at him and say, try 3 on at the same time. Because I had 3 teenage girls at the same time. Literally, I had my, actually I had 4. I had my 3 plus my niece at the same time. So, and then now I have 2 at the same time. And one, it is 100% the age. It is the age of teenagers. What teenagers are trying to do is that cut the apron strings. They're trying to really figure out more than the 2-year-old who they are, what they believe, and then they adopt these beliefs that are very strong. They're trying to be big, but and they ultimately really feel big, but they're not. They're trying to push the boundaries way more than the 2-year-old. I have done this so many times with my kids. It's just unbelievable. Now with my first 3 and my niece, I definitely was not as present as I am now. So what I can say the difference is now is that, and it sounds like towards the end of her statement, her question here is now I do not take it personal whatsoever. I don't. You have to, one, I look at the age of the child. I look at the mentality of the child, and I don't take anything that they say personal. That's probably the key. That doesn't mean that you don't set boundaries and you don't say, hey, don't talk to me that way, or I'm taking the keys to your car, or I'm taking your phone, or blah, blah, blah. But you really, really have to learn. Teenagers say so many things that are inappropriate and wrong, and she's trying to exert her power. So now we're jumping into a power game, an ego game. I call it ego dance, is what I call it. So if I yell at you, I'm exerting my power. That's my ego, because the ego always wants to be on top. And then she says something nasty because she's going to say, hey, I'm big, respect me, right? And then mom yells a little bit louder because all you're doing is an ego dance, where in the end, when she calms down, she goes back into her character because she's saying I'm out of character. It's because you're playing an ego dance. You can't do that. And who wins an ego dance? And is it that I never have had an ego dance, or that I don't ever get an ego dance? Sure, that happens. I am more able to come out of it by being aware and conscious of myself, my words, my feelings, my emotions. And when I am, per se, going out of character, Eckhart explains this, that when anger comes, the more you start to become aware and notice anger, the faster you notice anger. So first you notice it after the fact, after you've yelled, you dumb brat. And then you notice it in the middle before you yell dumb brat. And then you start to notice it as soon as the kid walks in the room and you go, she's in that mood. She's going to da-da-da. So I'm going to position myself now in presence. So I'm never going to react, right? So you're practicing the presence, but the more you become aware, then you can do it pre-event. So those are some of the things that I would suggest and that I definitely try to do, especially with the people in my life that I more difficult on a regular basis, we'll say. And you got to take the personal out of it and realize the source.
Thank you, April. Beautiful. There are many, many layers to it. I'll go through the panel, but not taking it personally, I think one of the things that Eckhart says is allow your ego to be diminished. And I've posted this quite a few times this week itself. somebody was saying, oh, what about this situation? And so exactly even Caesar's situation, the ego will come in and say, how could this happen to, it's going to band-aid the void. There's a huge loss, right? Suddenly a huge loss was taken away. So ego will come in and say, no, this should not have happened to me. Those evil people, and whatever the commentary starts, right? The narrative of the ego starts. So whatever the daughter says, don't take it personally, like you're saying, April. Allow your ego to be diminished. If she says, I hate you, I don't like you, whatever she may say, she really does not mean in that moment, she really does not mean I hate you. It's just that she does not want to do whatever it is in this moment. And their ego is much more stronger. They're just teenagers, right? So their will to hold their ego and fight is much more stronger than our will. We won't win. We won't win. So they are going to win. So this is not an ego battle. So allow your ego to be diminished. And I'll come to another pointer about it too if nobody on the panel touches it, but beautiful. They don't take it personally, right? Um, Caesar, you want to talk about this?
Sure.
Thank you.
I love the way April described that. I was actually thinking of the 4 agreements when she said that, and that was really one of the 4 agreements, is to never take anything personal. So I would add another one of the 4 agreements and say, to the mother on the opposite end there, who was the authority figure for the child. And again, a lot of things come into factor on, how old is the child? What was the upbringing? Where are they conditioned? To what point are they conditioned to? How strong is that ego? And I loved how she explained the dance of the egos. That was, that's just awesome. Beautifully said, April. But I would say, let your words be impeccable. Say it. Don't engage in the argument. Just say that, say what you need to say, almost like a military approach. I've used with my kids, in their early teenage years anyways. A military approach. You don't engage in the arguments with them. You let them know, the rule of law, I guess, on whatever you're arguing about, and that's it. There is no conflict, and if there is, then you should give each other an opportunity, or give the teenager an opportunity to voice what the problem is in a civil manner without the yelling and getting upset, and be a good example to her as far as maintaining her her level of peace in doing so. There's no reason to get upset. Let's talk about this, and I will break it down the best I can for you to make you understand. Um, and if you don't, there's an issue and something that the teenager needs to work on that's much greater than the actual situation itself. And as far as the mother goes, it's most definitely an opportunity to practice. Because if the teenagers don't allow you that to practice, surrendering to the moment and everything that is, then I don't know what's better, what a better situation is to do it. But yeah, and then going back to Sadhguru, I remember seeing a meme one time where he had said, somebody asked him, what is the secret to your peace? And he replied, I don't argue with fools. And the person said, well, I don't agree with that. And he simply said, you're right. So it was pretty cool. Yeah, so I would let the other side give the teenager the space to tell her side of the story and what she's after or not, and why she thinks she's right. And then the mother will comment on the opportunity, and that's it. Don't drag. I used to argue with my wife about her arguing with my 6-year-old. How could you engage in an argument with a 6-year-old for 2 hours? It's just crazy. But be the example. Don't get upset, and you can still address any situation in a compassionate, loving, understanding manner, and hold your ground. Most important, I believe, hold your ground on that, because after a few times, when you're not caving in, you're not letting the teenager's erratic behavior and the screaming and all that affect you in any way. She'll stop, over time, hopefully sooner than later. But to let her know that deeds go unnoticed when you're screaming and ranting and raving. As long as they know they're getting attention and possibly what they want because of them vulgar actions, they will continue. What you allow will continue. And I always like to say, be careful how much you tolerate. You are teaching them how to treat you, and that is definitely a truth that I live by. So you got to be careful, and especially with children. But you want the best for your children, and I don't never believe it's a good idea to, engage in a screaming match, so to speak. But a parent has to be a parent. They have to be firm in what they do and what they say. And at the end of the day, it is a practice for both of them. But the parent has to be the example in that situation and maintain a level of calmness and compassion throughout, even though she might be getting irritated. Take the irritations and that opportunity and seize the moment and, turn it into your practice. Again, you have to surrender to the situation of what is, and then address it as best you can out of compassion. There's no other way.
Thank you so much, Caesar. The one pointer that I heard you say is, for 15 years, what kind of conditioning have you put her through? Because she's showing you what you put in. If you were unloving, she's showing you unloving, right? So they pick up a lot from the culture that they are in, the classroom that they're in, their friends. They're going to pick up, that's all the environment conditioning them, right? So she may be, I will bring up a question. If nobody asks any additional questions, I'll bring up a question that Eckhart actually talks about. That will hopefully explain this too. But she may be emulating a behavior of a friend, right? She may have seen the friend talk to her mother that way, and she may be emulating that behavior. But if we rest in our presence, then that presence can flow, and then unconditional love is flowing out of us, right? So then they are more stable. The kind of like by pushing the buttons, the daughter is saying, I don't feel the love in you. I don't feel your presence. I'm not feeling your presence. Another button push. I'm not feeling your presence. Another button push. I cannot experience the love from you. Another button push. So the moment we show presence power, all that subsides. The button pushing stops. That's what I feel. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. Beautiful lesson. Kelly, did you want to talk? I know you've worked with kids, so you always had a lot of advice about kids. So go ahead. Thank you.
Well, as with the situation that Caesar has shared with us, I mean, every situation is about the practice. Every situation is about the discipline. And I'm sort of a stepdad. Don't have any kids of my own, and one of the main things, every once in a while, I'll have a learning experience, and the thing that I've learned is that anger is never a position of authority. It's always a good learning experience because it'll highlight things we're not paying attention to, if we're too tired, if we're not centered, if we're not practicing being conscious and being mindful and being present. It'll always rear its ugly head and remind us how we need to practice, how we're forgetting ourselves and how we're forgetting to be present. And again, I really liked what April said about teenagers. Growing up, I have one of those memories where I sort of don't forget much. And yeah, emotions when you're a teenager, they'll wreak havoc. They'll cause you to say stupid things. And it's one of the things that I've really appreciated about my own practice is not only having the discipline to be mindful, but if I step out of that space, if I happen to be too tired or be overwhelmed, if I am actually, emotionally overwhelmed, and I break my discipline and speak angrily or from a position of anger or judgment, it really hits me really, really fast, what I've done, how I've done it, and why. Why, that space of letting my discipline slip is, that's the learning curve. That's the education. That's the process of going in and out of being mindful and being present and not being mindful and being present. And the last couple of days I haven't slept much, and I actually got angry this morning and was having a conversation with my partner where she, reminded me to step back and take a breath. And it took me a little while. And, I'm very grateful that I, have her to, kick my butt when I need it and remind me, it's not easy, especially having kids, being a parent. It's, no matter the situation, the discipline of staying present is a constant refinement and a constant learning experience. And, it's really important to be able to maintain an open dialogue. And, sometimes you need to have blow-ups because it'll clear the air. And, you know, sometimes there's no other way to get certain things out other than to trip up on in your own, trip up, and I, use big air quotes here, have your own healing process really come to the forefront and have your shadow, rear its head and go, hey, there's, a lot going on here. It's like, we need to pay attention, kind of thing. So, oh, and there's been an addition here. Gosh, yeah, being bullied. Yeah, that's, I, having been bullied myself when I was a kid in grade 5 and 6, grade 4, 5, and 6. That's, that's a hard thing to deal with. Especially 7th grade, teenagers being, bullying each other. That's rough. That is not fun. And I mean, I used to, be physically accosted and assaulted as a kid in, going to a French Catholic school, not being French, not being Catholic. And that's why I learned how to box and, ended up beating up all the bullies. And that was my path. But, I'm a guy, right? That's sort of a male thing to do. And,
So the behavior is a defensive mechanism to the bullying.
yes, it absolutely is a defense mechanism. It's, wanting, because they don't have, they feel safe being angry and aggressive to someone that loves them, that actually supports them. And they don't feel safe expressing that anger and that hurt towards, the people who are actually causing it to them. Because if they do that, in school, it's just going to make it worse, or it's going to cause this huge explosion. And the social drama when you're a teenager is just, crazy. And in a very odd way, it's a very loving compliment that to blow up at a parent figure when you're a teenager, because honestly, you actually feel safe. It's actually a sign that they feel safe, but they want that reassurance that they are safe. And that's one of the hardest things to do to I would honestly, Crystal, you're obviously listening. just tell your daughter that you love her. Even in the middle of where she's like angry and yelling at you, just just tell her that you love her, that you hear her, you understand that she's angry and that she's hurt. And that was one of the things that my grandpa did with me when he taught me how to box and deal with all the bullies. Is he looked at me straight in the eyes, is like, I get it, you're scared and you're hurt, and I'm going to show you a way to be safe physically so that if you need to, you can defend yourself. And that was a great gift, sort of set me on the path that I am now. But yeah, when a kid is blowing up at you, it's because they actually feel safe to do so, and because they are holding on to an awful lot of hurt inside.
So the compassion is for her powerlessness, that the 15-year-old is feeling powerless. And so the mother needs to have that compassion, which will come from presence.
Yep.
Because the normal egoic behavior, the thinking mind will just want to butt heads and answer back, right? So anything else, Kelly? You good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Thank you.
Can I say something real quick?
Go ahead, Caesar. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I just wanted to add on to that, the bullying, when there's hurtful words being thrown around and such. I think it's really important that that the mother at least expresses her feelings about the consequences of the words. When they're expressing anger, I think it's really important for her to let the child know that that is very hurtful, that makes me feel sad, or that makes me upset, or it makes me feel like I'm not doing my job as a mother. Let them know that them words have power. And then also make sure you respond with the I love you, for sure, like Kelly said. Well, always, definitely, but I think on both ends it's very important for them to express their emotions and their feelings on what one says. Okay, well, that makes me feel this particular way because you said that. So yeah, it has to be known and taught that words have power as far as that goes. It affects people very, very much, especially from a child to a parent. What your kid says can hurt you more than what anybody else can say to you, that's for sure, and vice versa. So I just think that it's important to express your feelings and let the other one know, and just respond with compassion after that. But I think that's a valuable lesson there too.
Thank you, Caesar. I think once you recognize the powerlessness and can acknowledge it in the other, then the other will feel, oh, they'll shine the light. Like it almost is like we are shining the light on their unconscious behavior. And hopefully they bring that awareness that, so the more we can say you have the potential within you, you're beautiful, I love you, like Kelly says, right? The more you recognize, you allow that presence to flow in. Like Eckhart says, right? Even if you're talking to a toll booth operator, allow the presence to flow from you to the toll booth operator. So this is your child. So just imagine how much presence should flow from you into the child. Like unconditional love should pour out of your eyes, and she'll feel the power that she's empowered to do it. So thank you, Kelly and Caesar. Eileen, did you want to talk? You're a teacher too, so from a teacher's perspective, go ahead.
Teacher, parent, not of a teen, but of a close to teen. Drives me crazy. I wanted to add a few things actually on to what Kelly said. I just had to be in the moment and be present and not hit the unmute button and cut him off because I was like, yes. But a few things that came up for me were that idea of acceptance versus resistance. So like when these things are going on, like for me with my son, like I need to, like, even if I do react, like being aware that that's happened and accepting it, and then like trying again, because awareness does big things for changing things, acceptance. Um, and so another thing that came up for me was something that's come up at our meditations a lot, and that's compassionate surrender. Because, like, especially when she's explained how this has kind of come to be, like, you need to have that compassion. You surrender to what it is that's happening. It's already happening anyway. But then having that compassion, which brings me to the other thing, which Kelly brought up, was what I tell my son. Like, when things are going totally out of control, I'll say, you know what? I love you no matter what. Doesn't matter what you do or what you say. I'm going to love you no matter what. He will go and he'll go and he'll go, and it'll sound crazier and crazier as it goes. And I just listen. I just let him. I let him go. And then, like, I don't. Most of the time, I try not to get wrapped up and react in it, but it doesn't always work. But I always come back to that and say, you know what? I'm going to love you no matter what. I will add, like, I'll say, you know, after I've told him that, you know, I'll love him no matter what happens, I might add something like, really? Sorry, I have somebody who's literally going to come around and interrupt while I'm speaking. Goodbye. But I'll add in and say, like, I might not like the way that you speak to me, or I might not like the words that you say. I don't like the way I feel when you say them. So I make it more so about me and not like attacking him, and because it's not him. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but so I'll make more statements about myself, but just say, you know, I love you no matter what, but I don't necessarily feel good with the words that you're saying right now. So it's really changed our life over the last few months.
Beautiful. Thank you, Eileen. I think what Eckhart would say is chapter 4 of A New Earth. Don't be identified with your role as a parent or as a mother, right? So Eileen is showing how you are a different kind of mother. When you're not identified with that role, here, I'm the mother and I'm going to control, I'm like the king or queen of the castle, and you are my subject. If you don't have that, then it's a very compassionate, beautiful expression, compassionate surrender. You surrender to your teenage daughter and listen with your whole being. What is that teenage daughter actually trying to tell you? Maybe she's trying to express, mommy, I feel powerless. I don't feel good in this world. Listen to me, mommy. Listen. That's what she may be saying. But we get wrapped up in, I'm the mother and now I'm having a troubled kid. And then that limiting belief, I have a troubled kid, will continue on the troubled kid instead of dissolving the situation. So the panel members have given quite a few suggestions. So follow them. I'm going to go to April because she didn't hear the bullying part. So you want to speak to the bullying part, April? Thank you.
Yeah, the bullying is a big issue. I myself was bullied a lot. And because I moved so much as a child, I lost count. I don't remember what the count is, but it was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 different schools. Like I just moved. So I never ever really felt like I fit in anywhere, ever. I was always in a new school, new kids. And whenever you do that, you have to figure out how to fit in or not fit in. So eventually, at some point, in combination with my life, I just got pissed off and said, I don't care if any of you like me, which that was not a good route to go, right? Um, but I actually had one of my daughters did the exact same thing where it was around, it was later, I would say 9th, 10th grade. She'd always been bullied because I chose to have this child's hair is not red, it is orange. It is the color orange, redheads. Um, and my other daughter is red, but she's a brown red. This daughter was always kind of picked on, but around that 9th, 10th grade, she was picked on so much that she literally had a character just flip, like her personality just flipped, to where she basically was telling the world to F off now. I had this sweet little funny goofy girl in her own world and was just flipped. Um, my third daughter, because by the time she was 9 was a size D breast, she was bullied so bad that if I had not moved her schools, she'd have killed herself in 4th grade. Literally, the child would have killed herself. So bullying is a big thing. Um, it's a big problem, and it will have these effects on your children. And Kelly said it perfectly. Like what the way I say it is, and I even deal with this with like mom-child relationships as adults, husband-wife, wife-husband, boyfriend-girlfriend. The person will lash out at the person who they think will never leave. They will never leave them, so they are safe. So in my family, that tends to be me. I tend to get all the backlash of, I just went through it with one of my daughters for almost 3 years, where it was all, it just, I was like, ah, but I had been doing my practice enough to know that it wasn't really me. It felt like me sometimes. It hurt like it was me sometimes. It hurt pretty bad. But I was able to pull myself back into presence, my spiritual practice, and then not taking it personally and say, I'm just the one that it's okay to do this to. The other thing is I have crafted a relationship with all of my girls to where now during this last 3 years with my one daughter, it was so unbelievably difficult. But I've now crafted that relationship like I did with my other ones, where she may do this, and then I will go up to her and say, so since you wanted to be a jerk for the last 10 minutes, do you want to come around to be the nice one? Should we talk? Or should we just keep yelling? Let me know. I craft the relationship that way because I want my children to tell me everything. They tell me more than I want to know, but I want them to have that. But at the same time, I will also slip in, hey, you don't get to talk to me that way just because you're upset. I don't just do that to you. You don't just do that to me. It's equal, right? Because as parents, we have to learn to morph into friend-parent role instead of mom-child role, parent-child. So on the last thing for this is, if my children still bully to this day, that is the one thing that I just wish we could eliminate. They still bully so bad. And if there is some crusade that could happen, this would be it, to end this bullying, to stop this competition, this I'm better than, you don't have the right shoes. That's the one thing that I really wish, and I really think would make such a difference in this world if we could stop this at a young age. That's one of my really big passions I can't wait to see happen in this world.
Thank you, April. Beautifully said. I think we are doing it here, right? Bringing in more loving kindness and compassion and empathy. The more adults do this, maybe children will come through, right? Come along.
We heal ourselves and then it,
Ripples out.
yeah,
You are the universe.
Yeah.
You are the amazing miracle, right? As Eckhart says, you're not in the universe, you are the universe. So, one of the things that while we were talking about the personality changes in the daughter, there was a term that Eckhart uses, and I've seen it since we've been going through the conscious manifestation course and the School of Awakening modules during group meditation. I again saw him do the same thing on the relationship module of School of Awakening and the relationship module of conscious manifestation. And there's a talk called The Source of All Trust. I'm going to try and remember how he says it. He says a human being is not a single strand of it is not a single consciousness. They are a stream of consciousness or a strand of consciousness, right? What does the panel think? What is, I kind of know because I know what he describes later. And then Abraham Hicks also uses this, there's one video where she says, there are plural inner beings, right? There's a plurality to inner beings. So what is Eckhart saying when, and this will actually help Crystal, and this will help every human being that is kind of setting an expectation, oh, Poonam is going to act this way, or so-and-so is going to act this way, right? It will bring you to this compassionate surrender or empathy and compassion towards why is a human being a stream of consciousness or a strand of consciousness or multiple strands of consciousness is what Eckhart says. Not many people have focused on it. Not many people have understood it. But he does explain it in this talk, The Source of All Trust, as well as he talks about, I think he tries to use the same stream of consciousness during the relationship module. So I'm already giving a hint. Why is it multiple multiple strands of consciousness? Caesar, you want to go first or you want Kelly to go first? Either way, it doesn't matter.
I'll take a quick stab at it.
Go ahead, thank you.
To me, that it touches on realizing that you truly are one with all that is. It's hard to reverse that thinking for me, to think that there is separateness, that we're not really all connected. At the end of the day, I feel that to be my truth, that we most definitely are all connected. It depends on, I guess, your level of consciousness, that, on where you were brought to in a level of study that would suggest that to you. I didn't realize this till I was, in my 40s. I didn't learn about the energy thing, that we are energy, that everything in, light vibrates and, at a frequency. And so I guess it depends on somebody planting a seed, at some point, and then the rest just kind of blossomed. But yeah, I think, as far as what you see in another is also a reflection of yourself. But I think the short answer would simply be that we are one with everything. You have to be aware of that. And if you put a little study behind it, and I would probably say Eckhart would be the man to see in that realm. Be surprised what you learn and figure out in life. It's pretty amazing and awe-inspiring as well, for sure.
Thank you, Caesar. Kelly, did you want to talk about why does Eckhart say a, a human being is not a single being? There are multiple strands of consciousness or multiple streams of consciousness. Thank you.
My understanding is, well, as Caesar brought up, we are energy and vibration. Nikola Tesla liked to say that if you wanted to understand the universe, think of it in the realms of frequency and vibration. There are many aspects to the human experience, and we live in a world that is kind of designed to sort of keep us believing that it's a linear, three-dimensional world, except we all feel, and that's the key. We feel things that the mind cannot understand. We always have, we always do. When you go back to, connection with source and how we're all one with source and how we're all connected with source, so we're all connected and we're all partaking of the same experience here on this planet, you have to look at the interconnectedness of things. A lot of the materialistic three-dimensional experience is about separating us from ourselves, us from feeling, and separating ourselves from other people and other experiences and other information and other ways of feeling. And, barriers, family barriers, personal, societal, spaces where we choose to believe that we are separate. This story that we are separate, that we're in this, three-dimensional body, and I'm separate from my computer or my chair or, whatever else I happen to be holding in my hand, is the way that our programming keeps us believing that three-dimensional reality is all that there is. And it's, we have sciences, we have physics, we have quantum physics that is basically proving that we're all connected energetically. And, you get into particle physics and everything is connected. Quantum entanglements is proven that everything is legitimately connected the way, the Buddhist sutras or the Gnostics have been saying for thousands of years. So, it's really, how you can sort of tell where people are, is whether or not they actually want to have that conversation about how everything is connected, and if they are open to that, because that's one of the primary ways that you can understand where a person is at, and if they're willing to listen. And it also indicates how people are open to letting themselves feel beyond their internal dialogue, their ego dialogue. Because when you step out of your ego, when you step out of, the anger or whatever, you realize that everyone pretty much has the same emotional experiences. Everyone has different experiences, but everyone is subject to emotional and mental realities. And it is one way to understand how everyone has the same story of navigating their world and all of their connections with everybody around them. My 2 cents. Quantum physics.
Thank you, Kelly. I almost, I'm from the information technology field, and I have built quite a few cables. And I don't know if people have run any Cat 6 or Cat 5 cables. When you cut the cable, when you cut the shield, outside shield of the cable, then you see strands of copper. When he said that, it almost felt like that you see the human being, right? But there's multiple streams, just like the strands of copper. There are multiple streams to that one single human being, right? Um, and I actually have, there's a sacred acoustics meditation that shows almost like a pipe, and there's energy, multiple energy streams flowing out of that pipe, right? It's called Event Horizon. It's the hardest meditation that I almost feel very dizzy when I do Event Horizon. I've not been able to, and I've been doing sacred acoustics for quite a lot, about 5 or 6 years. So it's one of the toughest, but that's how I feel. It's like we may look like one single human being, but there's streams. What does he mean by you're not a single human being, but you're multiple strands of human beings? April, I gave you a picture, April.
Yeah, you gave me it. Yes. So thinking about this question, because you know, I try to learn these things. I try to understand these things, and I think it leads to the ultimate question of why are we here and what are we doing? I think it leads to that, or that's where it goes when you're on this journey. You will at some point run into this question. And I think we're not a single being, because we don't just come down here and have this one life and that's it. It's over. It's not linear. It doesn't start, stop. It is continuous one, because we are all connected. Energy is all. Energy does not stop. It flows. It's always flowing. So I am more than one being, because I also have all my past lives, and I have all my grandma's past lives and my grandpa's past lives, and I have all that information. And then I have the information that's coming in from source, but I have the information too that you've learned and that Caesar's learned and Kelly and Eileen. And then I have the information that my neighbor has. So it is a flow. And it really depends on where you focus in on. I could focus in on conspiracy theory and go get a bunker. I could focus in on health foods and animals, or I could focus on spirituality. And it is a flow. So it's not one being. There's multiple areas of flow. And I think everybody needs their flow. I need a dog person. I need a cat person and a plant person. And I think that's kind of what I'm getting out of. Why am I not just one thing? Plop, I'm here. Oh, done. I am a multiple, continuous, endless flow of source of information, of energy, of all.
Perfect. Thank you, April. Very good. It's very close to what he said. So thank you for that. Eileen, did you want to talk about streams of consciousness? Why is a single human being streams of consciousness?
I don't think I have anything to add on to it, but I do just want to say that I love studying quantum physics. And, that was one thing that really changed my life, because it almost like gave things that I wanted to be able to say I believe, but then it was like, oh no, yes, I do. Like for me, that really changed things, because I was like, wait, no, this is like scientifically, I can see it. It helps me. I like it. I love it, actually.
Thank you, Eileen. I think to me, science cannot explain what is the unknowable, what is the infinite, what's the eternal. If everything exists, the manifested world exists out of the unmanifest, The unmanifest cannot be known. We human think that we can explain things through science and do Sadhguru has this thing of saying you take a knife and you're trying to dissect everything, right? The intellect is that way. We're taking a knife and dissecting, but the knife is a blunt instrument. It's not the right instrument to know everything. So what you're doing spirituality wise is actually more beneficial to know the unknowable than any amount of science, any amount of string theory, any amount of quantum physics is not going to help, right? So
It
the
helped
reason
me. I'm just saying it helped me.
it helped you. And that's the balance between the spiritual and the science, right? We keep thinking that the thinking mind can have answers, but it's the experience that actually has the answers. So when he says stream of consciousness, what April stated is very close to what he said. So in regards to Crystal's daughter has had multiple forms of conditioning, like the memory pattern in her karmic energy pattern, right? The stream of consciousness. There's multiple memory patterns. They could be jealousy in there. They could be anger in there. So just imagine each strand of copper has a memory of anger, memory of jealousy, memory of uh, being a saboteur, right? I think Carolyn Mace is very good about talking about archetypes. Some people explain to this concept as archetypes. So if any of you know anything about archetypes, you're more than welcome to speak to it. I kind of make it akin to archetypes. So what Eckhart explains when he was in Glastonbury and he had a cottage and he was renting the rooms of the cottage to earn money to different people, he would say when they come down from the stairs, you don't know who's coming down. Is it the angry uncle that is coming down or the beautiful sweet aunt? So one moment the same 15-year-old daughter is going to be very sweet to you. The next moment they can be angry. But that is the compassion, the compassionate surrender that we need is they are multiple streams of consciousness until they integrate, right? That's why yoga is called integration. Qigong is about that, right? Integrating all these energy patterns, the multiple karmic threads, dense accumulation that April was talking about, the generationally, how was our family? How was this country, right? Where they were born, where your daughter is born. How was this planet, the conditioning of the planet right now, how much unconsciousness is in the world, how much anger is there in the collective mass consciousness, right? We ourselves saw with the violence on the Capitol, right? Like it's a government building, federal building. So that is what it is. So that is the compassion. Then we get the compassion, right? That this human being, we don't know what they've gone through. As Jesus said, we know not what they know not what they do, right? So your daughter does not know what kind of unconsciousness is coming through her. So compassion. Anything else? April, did you know anything about archetypes? Did you want to speak to it? We can quickly wrap up with that.
I've heard of them. It's not something that I've studied, but I have heard of them. I have read up on them a few times. There are some people that have some really good programs about them. If you put them in the context of, one is angry, one that makes perfect sense to me as how he sees that as energy streams, because that is, those are different energy streams, and we do have all of those. So, but the archetypes, that isn't something that I've really studied. But I think that your statement of when we do learn to, in a sense, integrate those different emotions, those different energies, and then work from a base of presence, that is the key. To me, even if you're not aware that you're on this spiritual journey, you know how people, when they get older, they kind of chill out. I think that's all where we kind of go. Not all of us, but a lot of us, what got you upset at 20 doesn't get you upset at 50. Like, we're all kind of on that journey of that integration of letting go, of having more peace. And that to me is the goal. Whether you intentionally do it or it just happens over time.
Thank you, April. Caesar, you want to wrap up one last on the stream of consciousness?
The stream of consciousness, sure. Sounds like we got some homework with the archetypes, so for next week. The stream of consciousness, yes. I have been putting a practice into creating good momentum and realizing when something gets in the way of my stream to disrupt that, because I want to immediately not go in a direction that produces, in a sense, bad momentum. I think it was Abraham or Jerry was actually explaining that, when something initially happens, he likes to just stop it immediately. He does not let it get momentum at all or gain momentum. And he just explained it as a car at the top of the hill. As soon as it starts rolling down the hill, if you catch the car quick enough, it's quite easy to stop, opposed to standing at the bottom of the hill and trying to stop it once it's gained some momentum. And like Eckhart says, you cannot stop, when you're trying to, break the curse of the ego. When you're 50 years old, it's gained a lot of momentum and you can't just stop it. It's something that has to be slowed down. But I try to focus on creating good, positive momentum, literally in that sense of flow. And then just to recognize immediately when there's a break in it. And like when I woke up the other morning, I immediately recognized I don't want to continue with my day in this state of shock or whatever, because I knew it could have led to something else. It's not that I didn't discuss it with anybody. I said what I had to say with the detective, and that was it. And that was pretty much the end of the discussion. But I just like to create good momentum. And there comes a point in the day where it's almost just like you can just kick your feet up and ride that wave the rest of the way. And so I like to use that analogy for life too, to gain all this great momentum, going into our later years here, into our golden years, and having an understanding of what April said. Why are we here? Just kind of having a good understanding about what life is all about, and creating enough momentum to coast through the rest of it and maintain my peace the rest of the way. So as far as the stream of consciousness goes, always should be awareness and done with compassion in whatever you do. And it's pretty simple. It's as simple as that. A chi master once said that if you work with source energy, you can never be wrong. It's quite simple.
Thank you, Caesar. Your van is a great lesson of impermanence of form. Right. All structures are unstable, as Eckhart says in the New Earth. So it teaches us that. Thank you. Thank you for the greatest lesson of the day, Caesar. Kelly, did you want to wrap the last bit? And then I'll go to Eileen.
Sure. Archetypes are a very interesting point of context and information. There's something that Carl Jung wrote a lot about. He wrote a really good book about them. Understanding personality types, or the parameters of emotional actions based on concepts of personality, the warrior, the priest, the mother, the father, those types of roles that we have archetypal roles, or you know, every culture has these roles in them. And you know, as you educate yourself and develop an understanding of your own personality, you know, archetypes are an important point of reference. They can help understand you know, the origin points of motivation. So some of the cultural programming that we're all on the receiving end of, some of the global consciousness programming that we're all on the receiving end of. Yeah, if anyone wants to get into them, again, there's also Joseph Campbell stuff. His stuff is really good. Goes into sort of some of the older concepts of archetypes, the hero, you know, the villain, and you know, the sort of interpretation and expression of those archetypes in the world today, and how countries, societies have expressed those archetypes in dealing with other countries. You know, world wars, you know, it always comes out that way. World War II, you know, the demonization of one segment of the population over another is a constant sort of thread through understanding archetypes. And that's sort of like a, you know, a larger scale thing. But, you know, on the personal level, archetypes are really important for having a point of reference for a mental construct of how we've been taught to express things, and how to see those constructs, and how to also be aware of them so that you can change how you express yourself. And that's sort of how I look at archetypes. It's important to understand. They're a good point of reference, but they are not who humans are at the core, because at the core, we are all connected to source, and we all have love inside of us, and we all have the capacity to varying degrees, obviously. You know, not everyone's like, oh, you know, beam me up, Scotty, I'm ready to go, kind of thing. It's you know, they're a good point of reference, but they're not the end all be all for understanding human personality. It's just like the Myers-Briggs test. I've background in psychology. The Myers-Briggs test, or the personality test, it's important to understand that those kind of things are patriarchal and made by white men, and as such reflect that, and reflect the kind of definition of personality that is expected of a patriarchal society, the archetypes. So, you know, you got the INTJ, you know, the feeling, the sensor, you know, on all those other types of parameters, you know. And yeah, April, I really liked what you said about archetypes, because, you know, the reason why is because it's important to understand archetypes, is because there are days when you will feel completely different than the day before, and you'll have a completely different part of your personality come to the forefront. So it helps interpret and understand the motivation and the origin of these expressions of personality, which in turn, educating ourselves about our own personality and our expression especially, helps understand the programming and the fears and, you know, the anger issues and the issues of expression and connection, and, you know, barriers that can arise from keeping us from being present and emotionally responsible.
Thank you. Yeah, what's deep down into our psyche, it brings us closer to understanding it. So, Eileen, did you want to wrap up? This will be the last. I'm sorry?
I don't have anything to add.
You don't have anything to add? Have a fantastic day tomorrow, and enjoy your first day in-person class. Many blessings. You're going to have a blast.
See, Caesar, I'm working on acceptance.
Segment intending her day tomorrow, right? You're
Mhm.
going to have a blast. We are all going to have a blast. Thank you so much, everyone. Caesar, Kelly, April, Eileen. It always is an honor and a privilege that all of you are here. And all the people that joined us today, I'm going to go look at the comments and see who all joined. I'm sure Gracie, Lakshmi, and others, Summer may be there. So thank you so much. Caesar, the most humbling experience today out of your story. So deeply humble, infinitely grateful that y'all offer these lessons, and they're learning lessons for all of us so that we can grow, right? We are on this journey together towards the unknowable. Many blessings, much love. Good night. Have a good day. Bye.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.